I'll jump in, get started. We'll see if anyone else comes to join along. Thank you for those that have joined us. For those who weren't able to make it, I will be sending out a recording copy of the webinar. So if you miss anything, you will get a recording copy as well. And then myself and the whole Canadian team are always happy to help. So if you have questions that don't get answered or that are more situationally specific, we can always set up a one-on-one call and go over the specifics for each person, because it is a bit of a build your own adventure depending on what you're looking for. I guess I should start with introductions. My name is Victoria. I'm located just outside of Toronto, working on the North American team. So my role is to help all of our educators from North America who are interested in teaching in Australia, the UK, and New Zealand. I am a teacher myself. I taught in Australia in 2023, so a full year ago now, and have been so lucky to come back to Canada and take this on as my full-time role to help other educators who want to go and teach abroad. And I am joined today all the way from Bristol by the lovely Sophie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. So my name's Sophie. I work here in the Bristol office, and I am an education recruitment consultant, and I help teachers and teaching assistants find roles in the local area, whether that's short-term, long-term roles, whatever kind of your dreams and desires are, I will help you look for those roles. A little bit about me, my background is actually in early years, so I spent 8 years working with the little ones before moving over to ANZ UK about just over a year ago now too. So I am excited to talk to you all a little bit more today about the UK and kind of why moving here could be a good step for your career.
Amazing. Wonderful. All right, what are we going to be talking about today? So I'll give you a bit of an introduction into ANZ UK for those who aren't familiar. We'll be going over the types of work that are available, the visa options, the different locations that we offer, and then a little bit more practically what the steps in your journey would actually look like, the community that we create, the support that we're able to provide, and of course, space for any questions. If you do have any questions as we're chatting, feel free to put them in the chat, and either Sophie or I can try and answer them, or we'll get to them at the end. So for those who are new to ANZ UK, we have been operating for over 20 years to help educators travel and teach all across the globe. We are here for 360 degrees support throughout your whole journey. We've got offices based truly all over the world. We've got our team in North America here, as well as the UK. We've got teams in Europe, in Australia, and New Zealand. Over 300 staff globally to really ensure that we are helping you from trying to make the decision of where do I want to go teach all the way through your time abroad and beyond. This question always comes up, why teach abroad? We always like to say, why not teach abroad? It's such an incredible experience for so many different reasons. Personal growth, to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, develop cultural awareness, experience living in another country. And England, of course, is amazing to have Europe at your doorstep if you want to go spend a weekend in Italy or go to Croatia or see all these new places. I think, Sophie, you were just over in Belgium for a couple of days. It really is such an amazing place if you want to go and explore all these new cultures and see all these new things. What a place to get to do it. The career development as well is wonderful. The UK obviously has a different curriculum to us, so challenge yourself as a teacher, learn new things, push your boundaries. It also can be great for future references to gain some experience in a new classroom, get a reference from a principal. And then finally, the life experience, make friends from all over the world, the travel opportunities, build yourself a community with great educators. It really, really is a fantastic opportunity to push yourself to learn and grow. All right. So when it comes to the UK, we are looking geographically at a much, much smaller place than Canada, but they have so much built into a very small place. So we have great offices currently in London, Surrey, Cardiff, Wales, Bristol, and Southampton, and we are ever growing. So I know we do have some people who will be looking for a couple years down the road. So these can always expand, but our 5 main bases are these locations currently. Now, we'll jump into the actual UK academic year. It is very, very similar to the North American school year. The biggest difference going to be that their summer starts a bit later in the school year. So they actually run through most of July and then are off for that end of July and August. The good news is you're not losing out on any actual time off because they have their break structures a bit different, 2 hours, and they're built in throughout the year. So you'll see they've got 3 terms across the school year, and with all those terms, you're going to have a end of term break and a half term break. So you are still getting your time off. It's just going to be allocated a bit differently. Again, if you want to go spend a week in France, if you want to go spend a week somewhere else, really, really great opportunity with these breaks throughout the school year to help break up your time and get to travel a bunch. When is the best time to arrive is a popular question that we get. And it's really going to depend on what you're looking for and what makes sense for you. We do hire on a rolling basis. So if there's a certain time where you're like, I have to go at this time, we can work with you to make that work. If you are looking for a contract role, your best times are going to be beginning of the terms. September is a great time for the contract roles, obviously the start of the new school year. There's also going to be some coming up in January. You can also see some at odd times, say people are taking maternity leaves, different leaves. So there's no one specific time, but start of terms are really great for contract roles. If you're going to go and be a supply teacher, just want to do day-to-day supply work, you can really arrive across the board. Just keep in mind that the busiest times for supply teachers are going to be through the middles of the year. So the spring term is great, January through April, and it's going to look very similar to Canada. September is going to be a bit slower for the supply teachers, as we see here. End of the year is going to be a bit slower for supply teachers. Teachers have used their sick days. They want to be there. Exams are happening for secondary students, so there's not as much demand. But that middle of the school year is going to be the greatest time for supply teachers. Work options. I think most of the people that we have joining us today are looking at teaching roles, but we do have a variety of different work options, including early childhood educators, teachers, support staff, executive opportunities. So there's a bit of something for everyone, just depending on your qualifications, your background, what type of role you're looking for. Okay, how to get work in the UK. This is where we come in and we can help you with all of this. So we are here to help supply you with great employment opportunities. To be able to work in the UK, you need to have valid working rights, which is where your visa is going to come in. Most of our Canadian educators are going to go over on this youth mobility visa. If you are a Canadian citizen, you have to apply before your 36th birthday. So it's inclusive of 18 through 35. You apply about 6 months before you intend to arrive. It's a valid visa automatically for 2 years. So you get 2 years. There's no restriction on the type of work you can do, how long you can work at any school. So once you have your visa, if you want a 2-year contract, you're able to do that with this visa. If you want to do day-to-day supply work, you're able to do that. The application costs about 500 Canadian. Where there is a bit of an extra charge is that in immigration healthcare surcharge. So if you're applying to this visa, you're going to be paying into the NHS, which is the UK's health service, that their citizens do, so you have full access to the NHS and to their healthcare. With that surcharge, it's £776 per year. So you're going to be paying that upfront for both the 2 years that you are there. So all in all, it comes out to a bit over 3,000 Canadian for the visa. It is a bit of an expensive visa. However, the 2-year start is great. You can apply for a 3rd year as well if you want to stay longer. And you do have that peace of mind that you have the healthcare coverage the entire time that you're in the UK. So a really phenomenal option for our Canadian educators. If this visa doesn't apply to you or you want to look into some others, there are a few different visa options. There's an ancestry visa. So if any of your grandparents were born in the UK, you might be eligible for the ancestry visa. There's also a HPI, which is High Potential Individual Visa, which is for graduates from certain universities based on the year. So currently, that's graduates from the University of Toronto, McGill, or UBC are eligible for this HPI visa if you're not eligible for the Youth Mobility Scheme. I know that's a lot of information. The great news is we have a visa support team built in to our team that will help you with this whole process. So once you've decided you want to go, saved up some money, are ready to make the move, our team will actually help you with getting your biometrics appointments set up, all of the paperwork, all of the hard stuff, so that you don't have to go through this alone. Oh, I realized there was sound on this video. Okay. Oh, geez. Your questions. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Sophie so that I will quit chatting so much. But I looked at some of the questions that everyone submitted. People are curious about the different types of teaching placements. You know, is there only day-to-day supply? Can I get contracts? Do I have to stay for a full year, or can I come for a couple of months, half a year? So I'll turn it over to Sophie to go over the different types of work placements.
Hello. So, here in Bristol, we mirror pretty much how the other offices across the UK work. So, my desk specifically, so I help primary. So it's primary teachers and primary teaching assistants, admin, all of those kind of roles. We have supply roles, which is day to day. So that could be 1 day a week, 2 days a week, however many days it is that you want to work. On kind of an ad hoc basis. So it might be that we give you a call today and say, we've got a primary school that needs someone for next Tuesday. Could you do that? So we have kind of pre-booked supply, and then there's also supply which is morning of. So we might give you a call in the morning and say, we've had 2 sicknesses at this school, could you go and cover there? We completely understand that's not everyone's kind of cup of tea. They like to know where they're going, and so they can arrange kind of transport and everything like that. But that is part of the supply day-to-day work that we have. We do also, for a little bit more security with supply, we do offer a guaranteed work scheme, which is called our ambassador contract. What that is, it means that we guarantee to get you work for however many days that is agreed. So for example, if we agreed to get you work on 4 days, even if we weren't able to get you out to work, we would still pay you for those 4 days to make sure that you're not losing any money, and means that you don't need to worry about kind of bills and rent, that kind of thing, as you know that money's always going to be coming in. So we also do fixed term contracts, and these vary in length. It might be that you are there for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. As soon as it gets to 4 weeks, it's considered a long-term fixed contract. And then that's where you're just at the one school. You might be included planning and marking for those roles. It might not. It's dependent on the school needs, but that would all be discussed with you. We can get fixed term contracts in place before you arrive in the UK if that is something that you wanted. And similarly to permanent contracts, normally you'll meet with the school, whether that be a trial day where you're going and teach, or whether it be kind of a Teams call, and then we can have that all in place for the time you get here. Equally, quite often supply days lead to fixed term contracts. So if you wanted more flexible work life balance, you wanted to travel around Europe, like Victoria said earlier on, and actually you're in Prague on Monday and Tuesday next week, so you can only do from Wednesday, that's fine. And quite often when you go into the schools, you'll get on with the school will like you, and they'll say, actually, could we have Victoria until the end of term? And that's quite often how those longer term roles come up as well. So those are the kind of 3 main work opportunities that we have and how that looks. But we're obviously more than welcome to go through any questions that you have on them.
I was also going to say a big difference between Canada and the UK that might be a change for Canadian educators. In Canada, you get hired by a school board, and get kind of placed at a school. You don't have as much autonomy with what school you teach at. Versus the UK, you're getting hired on by the school directly. So it's really nice to start sometimes on that day-to-day supply work. And like Sophie said, you'll vibe with a certain school, they'll get along with you. It's a great chance to ensure that you, like the administration, are getting along well with the students and find a school that really connects with you. It's not the same as here in Canada where you're kind of placed at what school and that's what you get. It's a great, there's a lot more autonomy in where you kind of want to teach in that sense.
Absolutely. And so pay rates. So these do vary dependent on obviously the work that you're doing, the location that you are, and whether it's a short-term role or a long-term role. So here in Bristol, the kind of standard daily rate for supply is £130 per day. If you were going into a longer term role, that does increase. So because there are extra responsibilities such as planning, marking, parents' evening, those kind of things, you get paid on a scale. So this is for the whole of the UK. There is a scale called MPS scale. And what that scale does is it breaks down into kind of experience levels on how many years you've been teaching. So, for example, here in Bristol, if you've been teaching for 3 years and you're going into a role that needs marking, planning, those kind of extra responsibilities, the daily rate for that, I will just need to check, is £182.94, and it goes up with the more experience that you've got. In London, obviously, due to living costs in London being slightly higher, there is an increased MPS scale. So they get paid higher for the work that they do just because of the location and how much it costs to live there. Anywhere outside of London is paid on the same rates as Bristol, Southampton, Surrey, those kind of things. But it's dependent on the work that you're doing. Then for teaching assistants, it starts at £90 per day. But as a company, we're really big on kind of reviewing these as often as we can. So I know that in January, we're due to review how much the teachers are paid. And we will always try and get you paid as much as possible. It doesn't make a difference for us whether we're paying you £130 or £150. Our main motivator is to get you paid as much money as possible for the work that you're doing.
Did kind of already go over most of this, but
So I went through kind of the daily rate. Like I said, it varies dependent on the location that you're at. We went through the guaranteed work scheme. Quite often, all you need to do is ask about the guaranteed work scheme. And then when you speak with Victoria or one of the other consultants in Canada, you will be put in touch with a consultant here in the UK who will then be able to talk through it with you as well. Kind of why ANZ UK? So we have a ready to work app, which is really, really simple to use. You can log in on your phone. It has a calendar with your availability. Click which days you're available to work if you're doing supply, which is really great if you are using the UK as more of kind of a hub whilst you travel across Europe. Like Victoria said, I actually was in Belgium the other week. My family lives in London, so I went and spent the night with them, got on a flight from Heathrow, and I was in Belgium within 40 minutes. So it is really quick, efficient. I know that you can fly to Europe quicker than you can fly to other parts of Canada. So that means the flexibility on the app. I could have just put I wasn't available to work on the Monday and Friday, and then I wouldn't have work found for me on those days. The team across the UK are a very established team. They've got lots of experience, and a lot of our consultants are previous teachers and educators themselves, which is something that really drew me into ANZ UK when I started, is because we know what it's like to be kind of in front of the children. We know what it's like to have a long day and those kind of things. So we're here for you if you just need a rant or you need someone to talk it through. The likelihood is one of us will understand kind of what it is that you're going through as well. And then the opportunities are flexible to what you want and need. We will always put you into the best roles for you. And whatever it is, if you go to a school, you're supposed to be there for a long term and you think, you know what, I'm really not getting on, we will find you something else. We'll move you into something that is better suited for yourself as well.
All right. Contract positions. So a couple of the questions there on kind of what happens when you're in the UK. So how long would a guaranteed contract be? What support do we offer? Do I get a consultant? Will they stay the same? Is assistant offered? Are full-time positions? So a bunch of questions just kind of on how the process works and what happens once you're in the UK. But I know you talked a little bit about contracts. Is there any roles that you're seeing a lot of contracts in, Sophie? Areas that teachers are needed? Is it a bit of everything?
So it's really hard to say generally. Obviously, I mentioned that I am primary, so I'm going to be slightly um, better speaking about that. But my colleague Becky, she does secondary in Bristol, and I know generally across the UK, maths and science in secondary is really, really hard to get teachers for. So if we were sent a CV of a teacher working that wanted a science role for January, even now on the 30th of December, we would be able to find them work for the 6th of January when term starts. It is that needed at the moment for secondary. Primary generally, because primary teachers can fit in a little bit more, it's slightly harder. But the kind of subjects that are really needed is maths, science, DT, which is design technology. That's a new one that's come up quite a lot. And ICT, which is information communication technology as well. But generally, secondary school placements are done very easily.
Okay. And I know we kind of skipped over some of the other questions. I will circle back to it at the end as far as what support do we provide and assistance with visas and all of that stuff. Living, monthly expenses. Obviously, Sophie talked about it's going to vary depending on where you're living. Cost of living in London is going to be different from the cost of living in Bristol. I would love to say if you are undecided about where in the UK you want to live, our UK teams did a phenomenal webinar called the Battle of the Boroughs a couple months ago, where they went over the different areas where we are located, talked about the cost of living in each area, what each area has to offer. So if you know that you want to go to the UK but aren't absolutely decided on where, this is a really great video to watch, and I can absolutely send it to you to talk about the different areas and what they each have to offer. Other questions, more about accommodations, how to figure out where to stay, will relocation support be provided, and what cities in the UK are offered to teach in. All right, Sophie, you live there. How is it finding accommodation in the UK?
So I have always found it relatively easy. So I actually grew up in Surrey, which is near where one of our other offices is. Surrey is kind of southwest, on the outskirts of southwest London. So I spent a lot of time in London as I was growing up. And then I randomly woke up today, one day, and I thought I'm going to move somewhere else, and I kind of agreed on Bristol. When I came to Bristol, it was only supposed to be temporary, and 5 years later, I'm still here. I just absolutely fell in love with the place. So I am slightly biased about Bristol being the best place in the UK, but generally finding somewhere to live. it is quite competitive. However, there are lots of different things that we can use and send you to support with that. So there's lots of Facebook groups, lots of apps, one particular one called Spare Room, where you can just go on there. You can have a look at the places that are available, whether it's a whole flat that you're looking for, whether it's a house share, and have a little look. What we normally suggest, and what a lot of our educators are doing at the moment when they're relocating, is they book an Airbnb for the first few weeks when they get here. So maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, however long you want to do it for. And then when they get here and they land and they get settled in, they then go on Spare Room and Facebook and have a look. And that means that you get to go and kind of visit the places in person, and have a look around instead of just kind of seeing the pictures online. We would suggest doing that. It's much better than kind of finding somewhere online and then getting there and it's not kind of all it's cracked out to be. So that's what we would suggest, to make sure that you're looking kind of in the right areas and whatnot. Also, your consultant, when you're linked up with your consultant, will be able to give you more advice on kind of the area that you're living in. So for example, in Bristol, there's certain areas that are really good for getting around, public transport, and there's areas that are slightly further out that makes that a little bit difficult unless you've got a car. So your personalized consultant will be able to give you a little bit more advice on kind of the locations within our areas that would be best for you. So in terms of the kind of locations that you can actually live in, so renting is obviously the most common one that we have. We have a lot of our educators that do house shares, so that will be where you rent out a room within a house with other people. We actually have quite a few of our educators that have come to the UK from Australia that have they've moved into a house and then kind of a year later they've moved into a house together because they've become friends, and they met at a couple of our events, so that's quite a nice thing as well. But it's all about just finding something that works for you. If you need help kind of working out generally what your kind of monthly income would be so that you can make sure that you're moving in somewhere that's affordable, that's all something that we can help with as well, kind of moving forward.
I don't know if you know about this one as much, Sophie, because it is more for my side of the woods, but some people do ask about the different financial incentives and if there are relocation bonuses. And we do luckily have some relocation bonuses currently happening for our educators who are moving to the UK. So if you are going on that ambassador contract, that's that guaranteed work scheme that's available in Bristol or in London, there is a £250 relocation available for flight. That's paid out after you've worked 60 days worth of shifts at schools in London or Bristol. If you are going into a contract signed and ready to go for you, there's up to £500 for a flight reimbursement, again, following 60 days at that school setting. So really great option just to help with your flights. If you aren't familiar with the conversion, the dollar is much, much, much worse than the pound. So £250, we're looking around 400 Canadian dollars. So can absolutely cover a flight over to England to help you get started and take a little bit of that financial pain off you.
So a little bit more about the location. So like I said, I spent a lot of time growing up in and around London and Surrey. London is obviously the capital, and a lot of educators from overseas want to come to London because you want to visit, you want to see it. It is great. So we have 4 divisions across London. So we have Southwest, Northwest, Northeast, and Southeast. And within those teams, we have kind of 5 or 6 consultants that will be there to kind of look after you. So it is by far our biggest office in the UK, and it is busiest with the amount of business that comes in through them, due to the amount of schools that they have, and the reach that they're able to have, kind of with the amount of consultants. The role roles that are there are very similar to kind of the roles that are across the UK generally. So secondary, again, is really, really needed. And they are happy with short-term, long-term roles. They have as much short-term kind of supply day-to-day roles as they do long-term roles as well. Obviously, London has great transport links, really, really easy to get around. You have Heathrow, which, like I said, can get you to most European countries quite quickly. Belgium in 40 minutes. You can get to Spain in an hour, France in an hour. So it really is a hub for kind of the rest of mainland Europe. Lots of train stations that you can get up and down the UK as well. And it is a great place to live. Even if you don't live there or choose to stay there, it is absolutely somewhere that you need to go and visit and have it on your bucket list generally as well. So Bristol, obviously a lot more comfortable speaking about Bristol. I've gone over kind of what the needs are here in Bristol currently. The public transport in Bristol is really, really good. Unlike London, we have more buses than kind of underground. So it's more underground / metro in London and more buses, taxis. We have electric scooters here in Bristol as well, which are used. In the Bristol team. So, like I said, myself, I do primary. We have Becky who does secondary, and then we have Laura who does kind of a bit of everything. So we're a much smaller team. We cover all of Bristol and then down the southwest coast as well. So kind of down into Somerset and then into Devon and Cornwall as well. So as much as our kind of our base is Bristol, we do cover all of those areas. And arguably those areas are kind of the prettiest areas of the UK as well. So if actually you're thinking city life might not be for you and you think you'd be better in kind of the countryside, somewhere a little bit more kind of suburban, then those areas would be better fitted for you. But obviously with those areas comes a lot less public transport. So it is a little bit harder to get around if you go into those areas. So Wales, obviously Wales is just across the bridge from Bristol. So obviously Bristol is in England and then Wales is its own country. Our office is in Newport in Wales, but we cover Cardiff, which is the Wales capital, Newport and some other areas around southern Wales. Again, the roles in Wales are very similar. They need a lot of support actually. So teaching assistants, learning support assistants, those kind of things. And then secondary, as soon as you go there with a secondary qualification, you'll get snapped up into a role. Wales is the one that I probably know least about, but it is a beautiful country. I holidayed there back in the summer. I went there for a long weekend, lots of castles, rich with history, and it is just a beautiful country to live in. And again, it's one of those places that even if you choose not to kind of settle there, it's definitely a place to visit.
Great. It's a bit of a hidden gem as well, and I don't think enough people know about Wales. And whether you are going to work there or just going to go work in England, definitely have it on your must-see list. I don't have more slides for Southampton or Surrey, but as well, those are two other options if you are looking for contract roles or the day-to-day supply work. Those are always an option as well. Other questions, once you have done those 2 years, can you extend the visa? And then what courses or qualifications are required to be able to actually teach in the UK? As I mentioned, with that youth mobility scheme, it is an initial 2-year visa. You can apply for a 3rd-year visa as well towards the end. So if you've been there for 2 years, are absolutely loving it, not ready to go home, there is an easy way to apply for your 3rd year to stay on longer. The qualifications are going to be your QTS. This one is quite easy to get. It's free to do, and you can actually teach as a Canadian teacher for up to 4 years without it. But once you've got 9 months of experience, you can apply for your QTS, and I do believe it can help. So worthwhile doing once you reach that 9-month marker. The great news is if you are a Canadian qualified teacher, you will be qualified to teach in the UK. Our standards meet up very well. So if you are a teacher here, you can teach there, no problem. Okay. So how does the journey actually work? What do you do to get started? If you are in the initial stages, this is a great place to just get some information. But like I said, to chat with us one-on-one is always the best way to find out how long the process will take, what you're looking for, any specific details. So to get started, we just need your resume. We do run references before you can be officially hired. We need at least 2 principal or VP level references and a photo. And I love this little quote of we'll handle the boring stuff so you can handle the fun stuff. Teaching abroad truly is meant to be a wonderful experience for you to push yourself, go somewhere new, learn about yourself. But there's a lot of administrative and paperwork, as we know, that goes into it. Our whole Canadian team has taught abroad, so we know about all the administrative work and all the kind of stuff that you have to do to get there. So we're here to help with all of that so that you can enjoy the journey as much as possible. Sophie already spoke to why teach with ANZ UK. So I'll quickly go through these, but we've got support across the globe. So we're here to help you on the north, and then once you are there, we've got our teams in the UK to help you. We have the visa service to help you along every step of the way to make sure that your visa is lodged and done correctly. We also have events both pre-departure and post-departure. So if you are in Canada, we are about to do our travel Canada-wide. We're going from Halifax to Victoria, so really going all the way across the country. And we offer events, so we can meet with you in person. You can meet other educators who are also looking to go abroad. And then there's events in the UK as well, so you can meet all the other overseas teachers. We send North Americans, but there's also tons of Aussies, tons of Kiwis who go over, and great to get to meet some other educators. The Ready to Work app truly is such a great and easy way to manage your work, especially if you are doing a couple of days of CRT work and having another job on the side. It just really keeps things very, very nicely organized for you. We provide resources and guides for banking information, setting up a phone, all the stuff that you'll need to do, and the little things that you might not think about before making the move. We've got a guide to help you with all of that. And finally, we've got some affiliations with different travel groups, sports teams. So we're here to help make sure that you have the best experience possible beyond just the classroom. So you've watched it, you've decided, you're ready to go, you want to go to the UK. How does the process actually work? The first step is the initial contact with our North American team. We would go through the visa process, answer any questions that you might have, go over everything that you need to know ahead. Once you have signed on, you're going to go to our compliance team that's going to help you with the visa process, everything that you need to do to get your working rights in the UK. Third step would be contact from the UK. So you'll be assigned a global consultant depending on what you teach and where you're going. So if you are a primary teacher heading to Bristol, you will be passed along to the lovely Sophie, set up a call with you, again, go over what type of work you're looking for, help answer any questions that you have. Again, they can be amazing to give recommendations for what neighborhoods to be living in, any kind of local information that you can get, phenomenal person to talk to. And then you'll actually set up for your registration. So once you booked your flights, you can go into the office, meet with your consultant, make sure that everything's registered, make sure all your paperwork is done, any safeguarding, any certifications that you need are all good to go. You'll be cleared for work, you've registered, your paperwork is through, you're good to go, and then you are in the classroom. So whether that is in a contract role or day-to-day supply work, the support doesn't end there. We have social events. We offer PD events if you're looking to gain some new skills or new information. And again, the team is always there if you have questions about your contract role, or if you are nearing the end of a contract and want to get into something new, the team will be there all the way through to make sure that everything is going well throughout the process. talked about this already. We've got a bunch of events in Canada, in the UK, wherever you're going. One of the biggest things with moving abroad is going to be meeting new people, making new friends. I know that's a scary thing for a lot of people, especially those who are going alone. I moved to Australia on my own, so I totally get it. And it's a really, really great way to meet other people who are doing the same thing and make some new friends along the way. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to us ramble for the last 40 minutes. I hope that it was informative. I hope that I answered some of your questions. If you do have more questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I can try and unmute you or put them in the chat. Otherwise, as I said, I will send out a recording of this to everyone and we can set up a one-on-one call and go over any specific personal questions that you may have. See, we've got one type in. Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much, Sophie, as well, for jumping on here. I know it's the end of the day there in the UK, so
It is the end of the day, but no, thank you so much for having me. And I know that you're all in great hands with Victoria and the rest of the Canadian team. So hopefully we will see you all soon.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll end that there. And Happy New Year, everyone, and talk to you all very soon.